Good morning. Thank you all for being so respectful of our time. First of all, I want to welcome you guys. If you're standing, if y'all can just take a seat, unless you're an ambassador, you're okay. For everyone else, we're going to go ahead and begin, okay, guys? So my name is Belinda Garcia, and I do marketing for the academies, which you all are all a part of. And today we have a panel of speakers, as you can see up here, that are going to speak to you about their careers, about their educational pathways that they took, and just advice that they have for all of you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce them, and then they're going to tell us a little bit about themselves. So the way this is going to work, guys, and so that the speakers know as well, is if you have a question, please raise up your hand. Where are the ambassadors? Okay, the ambassadors are raising up their hands. If you have a question, raise up your hand. They will go to you, and you can input your question in real time. I will get it up here, and then I'll ask the panelists to answer that question that you may have. Does everybody understand that part? Yes? Are y'all awake or asleep? Both? Okay, let's try this. Everybody say good morning. Okay, I know we can do better than that, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start on that farther side just to introduce who the panelists are. So from UTRGV, we have Mr. Mario Gonzalez. We have Professor Mr. Lucas Castillo. HSI investigator, Mr. John Reynosa. Sports media personality and blogger, Mr. Alex Del Barrio. And our very own La Jolla ISD Fine Arts Director, Mr. Ruben Adame. Okay, Mr. Adame, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. If you can just tell us a little bit about what you do and your educational pathway that you took.
Well, I currently serve as the La Jolla ISD Head Fine Arts Administrator. I overlook all the fine arts programs here in the district. Before I became an administrator here at La Jolla, I was a band director here for 32 years. 26 years, and an educator for 32 years. During that time, I was a professional musician that played professionally, did a lot of recordings in recording studios, traveled around the country playing professionally at concerts. And before that, I was a student playing professionally as well. I went to West Texas A&M University in Canyon, Texas, and if you don't know where that is, just look for that little spot. I think it's a little bit north of Amarillo in the middle of nowhere. And so I went to school there for a couple of years, decided I missed home, came back and graduated from UTPA, which is now UTRGV. And I think coming back home gave me a lot of opportunities to pursue my career as being a professional musician. But I knew I wasn't going to make a living with that, so decided to be a teacher instead. So a lot of decision making in the process to get to this point, and I'll be more than happy to explain that a little bit more on some of the decisions that I had to make. And they were tough decisions, but my experiences that I had in high school and in college helped me make those decisions, and I'll be more than happy to elaborate on that some more later on.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Alex, your turn.
All right, so I've been a TV, radio, and now internet multimedia personality, content creator for going on 15 years now. I've done a lot of interesting things throughout and some work for some interesting teams and organizations. Formerly the voice of the Rio Grande Valley Vipers basketball team. When they won their first championship, I was the voice on the call for that game. I've done games play-by-play for NBA TV, ESPN3, and I just signed a deal to call games for CBS Sports Network. And I've also been involved with the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters. I was their announcer for 2.5 years, traveled around the world, visiting 26 countries in the two and a half years I was there. And for you pro wrestling fans, I was with World Wrestling Entertainment, NXT, for 9 months in WWE, worked WrestleMania 32, and been involved in a lot of different things here locally as well. I was most recently the sports anchor at Channel 4 for the last couple of years, and now I'm kind of doing a lot of my own stuff in content creation. The world is kind of your oyster now in terms of the way content is created on YouTube and Facebook and podcasts. I've got a podcast now that covers high school football here in the Rio Grande Valley. It's a passion project that I've always wanted to do, and I'm doing that now. So I've done a lot of radio and television, and as far as the educational path I took, I graduated from Mission High School back in 2001. I went off to Boston University for 3 years, and in the landscape there at school, I was able to take in a lot of doing sports radio at the student radio station, calling games I'd never seen before, like lacrosse, and games I've never done on the radio or even heard on the radio before, like soccer, and learned how to do a lot of those things while I was there, and also get to experience the Patriots winning the Super Bowl for the very first time, the Red Sox winning for the first time in 86 years. So got immersed in kind of the sports landscape there. I ended up finishing my collegiate career Pan American, and then kind of snowballed into a career starting here in the Valley, then later on, obviously, with the organizations that I've been in. So here to answer any questions you guys might have about content creation, about getting involved in sports, sports media, and all that stuff.
Thank you. Mr. Reynosa?
So my name is John Reynosa. I'm a special agent with Homeland Security Investigations. It's called HSI. I'm sure none of you know what that is right now, but I will explain it to you. First, I want to apologize. I'm on call for the next 24 hours, so if I have to walk away and take a phone call or leave suddenly, it's because something happened, I gotta go. So Homeland Security Investigations, we investigate anything coming in and out of the country, be goods, whether it be counterfeit goods, narcotics, human smuggling, human trafficking, technology, weapons, anything that has to do with anything coming in and out of the country, we have jurisdictional investigative authority over that. So we do a lot of investigations down here in the Valley. I'm on a child exploitation task force, so I do a lot of investigations on crimes against children on the internet. So we do Facebook, Snapchat, WhatsApp, anything that you use your phone for or technology for, we investigate. So I started my career as an investigative assistant in Miami. I was basically supporting investigations. I was not law enforcement. I got a promotion. I worked intelligence in Washington, D.C. for a couple years. And then from there, I got a promotion for special agent. Special agent's a great job. I love it. It's a lot of freedom. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. As far as my educational background, I went to my first 2 years. I didn't know what I was going to do. I studied liberal arts at a community college. From there, I realized that I loved the law. I took some criminal justice classes. So I graduated from a community college with a criminal justice degree, and then I thought I was going to be a lawyer, so I went and I researched who has the best law program for bachelor's degree. Went to the University of Central Florida because they offered a legal studies degree. From there, I changed gears. I realized I didn't want to do law. I wanted to enforce the law. So from there, I got my master's degree at Florida International University. And here I am today.
Thank you. Okay, guys, you've already heard from 3 panelists. So if you've had questions to ask any of the first 3 that you've heard from, now's the time to probably grab an iPad and just get your questions in. I'm going to go ahead and continue with Mr. Castillo. And I know we had 2 students join us. Mr. Castillo, if you could just help us introduce them too, and then just tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Good morning. My name is Lucas Castillo. I'm a structural engineer, and I also teach at the University Rio Grande Valley. I also have my own firm for engineering. But let me introduce Ms. Maria Pruneda. She's one of our students. And we also have Mario Gonzalez. He's one of my students as well. And we have Brisna, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name.
Brisa Rodriguez.
Ms. Rodriguez, she's also a student there at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. What we're here is to promote our program in civil engineering and answer any questions you may have on that field. I can describe a little bit what we do. We deal with infrastructure. I'm a structural engineer. We design things like this auditorium, anywhere from buildings to bridges skyscrapers, all that. I am from the Valley. I was born in Michigan. I was part of a migrant family. And I worked in the fields here as a kid. And I saw this city grow from a population of very little people to a metropolitan area. I'm familiar with this area too. There was nothing out here growing up, and it has expanded greatly, and for the good. It's for good things. Out here in the outskirts, this is where typically all the migrant families were. And the reason for the growth is because the migrant families were hardworking individuals. And it just spread it off. And then the kids started getting more education, started going to college, and started bringing some of that back to the community. And that's why I am here. I got my bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Texas A&M Kingsville, and I got my master's degree in structural engineering from Kingsville as well. And I also got my professional license in engineering, which allowed me to teach at the university. In the state of Texas, in order to teach civil engineering at the university level, you require an actual civil engineer with a license to teach the courses. That's something that we have that other engineering fields don't have. Mechanical, electrical, manufacturing, natural gas, computer science, those are straight out of the school. In civil engineering, you have experienced professionals teaching the course. So you learn a couple of things or two. So for this time, we're here to answer any questions you may have, and we appreciate you all being here, especially your faculty. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Pruneda, you want to just say a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm sorry for arriving late. I was super lost. Your campus is huge, and she had to guide me. Anyways, well, I'm a graduate from Mission High School. I know y'all might not like Mission High School. I'm a second-year student at UTRGV. I'm majoring in civil engineering. I'm vice president for ASC, which is one of our organizations there on campus. Because of that organization, I got an internship, and then I got offered other internships, and then I'm getting paid now. And even though it's like just smiling and talking to people, it's very easy, and it's very like you just have to put a lot of time into it. And even though I got here late, I'm very, very like, I like getting there on time, but today was a different thing. I was lost. But I really hope you all have a lot of questions, and I hope I can really answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez?
Hello, my name is Mario Gonzalez. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, like you said, my name is Mario Gonzalez. I'm a student at UTRGV. I'm a senior student. I should be graduating next semester, right? I was born in FAR, graduated from high school in FAR, right, Valley View High School. Back in '99, I started my education at the university, at UTRGV, right? What was used to be UTPA. I just went for a couple of semesters, and unfortunately, I made a decision of dropping off, right? Because I was working, I got a job where I was paying good money according to my 19 years old back then, right? Then I didn't go back to school until 2007 when I had an accident in 2005, right? And I had already had a family. I decided, I didn't decide, right? Because of my accident, I wasn't going to be able to move at all. And unfortunately, I'm on a wheelchair, but that didn't stop me. What I was doing before my accident, I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore. So while I was in rehab, I decided to go back to school. So I went into a local college and got I got a certificate as a technology support specialist. So basically, I'm familiar with computers, networking, that's one of my backgrounds. Then, but what I really wanted to do was do architecturing. So after that, I went ahead and did an associate degree, right? Where I have an associate degree as an architectural drafter. So I do blueprints. I design residential homes, buildings, right? Like this one, like Professor Castillo was saying. And but once I finished that degree, I decided to continue my education with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, which was what I wanted to do since the beginning, since I graduated from high school, right? I guess I didn't went straight to that in 2007 when I came back, because I thought that was gonna be more difficult because it was a university, right? But it's actually not, right? I think I should have just gone straight to it now that I'm doing it, right? And as a family, well, we're 4 kids, and it's not easy to go to school, have family at the same time, and work. But I'm almost done with it. It took me a little longer than usual due to my disability and medical situations that can come on the way. But like I mentioned, I'm almost done with a program. It's a great program, right? I recommend it to anybody interested in going into the civil engineering field. Don't be afraid because of the math on it and the classes that might be too hard. If you guys are good with math, I mean, you guys can do it. I tell one of my daughters, I see how much homework they get, and they're in advanced classes. Once you get to the university, I mean, that's what you guys are doing right now. It's gonna be less work for you guys once you guys are there. And I encourage you guys to go to the university. Don't quit. If you're gonna thinking on working, just go to school and try to work, but don't quit, because by the time you know it, you guys are already out of it, right? And thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Brisa.
Hello, good morning. My name is Brisa Rodriguez. I graduated from Jimmy Carter Early College High School with an associate's in mathematics. I'm a second year at UTRGV, and my major is civil engineering, and I have a minor in management. I am also in ASE. I am an officer there. I'm a treasurer, and I am seeking an internship this summer. So, yeah. If you guys have any questions about that, about the experience or anything, I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, speakers, we already got some questions in, so I'm going to kind of just do a round robin of what's coming in. Let's go with Alex first. What was your favorite show to either host or where you were a commentator, or something that sticks out for you?
That's a really good question. I've been really blessed in my career to cover some really amazing moments in sports. I covered the World Series in 2017 when the Astros won for a radio station in Los Angeles and for Sirius XM satellite radio. So that was cool because there was a team I grew up watching and rooting for as a kid. I grew up rooting for both the Astros and the Red Sox, and to see both of those teams win the World Series in person was always a blessing. But when I was 11 years old, I had always wanted to work at WWE as a ring announcer, and I'd always grown up watching pro wrestling, and it was one of the joys of my youth, right? And being able to work at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas and have my family come up and be there. I had some friends from high school that are still wrestling fans that were at WrestleMania Access that were able to see me work. That was one of probably the greatest joy, just because that's what I wanted to do when I was 11 years old, and to be able to accomplish your dream was something it's still very special to me. My run at WWE didn't last as long as I wanted it to, but I always tell people that being able to cross the threshold of your dream, whatever it may be, that's really special. So I'd say both of those things, covering the World Series and obviously working at WrestleMania.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Castillo, how long did it take for you to get your professional license?
The professional license is something that it's very prestigious to have something like that. It started off, I would honestly say it took about 20 years. And the reason I say that is because it's not just once you pass the exam, you get your license. It's just the moment that you start and you make a decision to become an engineer, that's the moment it starts for your road to become a professional engineer. There is something that a lot of people don't understand is that when you graduate, you can't automatically start designing and building things or authorizing things. You have to work for at least 4 years under another professional engineer before they can say you can do it on your own. I graduated, I worked under another professional engineer for several years, and then I took the exam, and thank goodness, thank God, I passed it. One of the most happiest days of my life. And honestly, it's not just, it is a very, very challenging and it's a very long road. You have to think it's not the moment that you graduate, it's all the time and sacrifice that you took from the beginning of your decision to get to that point. And you could say that that's how long it actually took. It took me about 20 years just to get this little thing right here. That thing, for the right person, is worth millions. It's hard to believe, right? But this little 1.5-inch stamp that I have right here can earn you millions and millions of dollars. If you put the work into it and the sacrifice into it, you could be very, very successful using this little stamp. And to answer your question, I would say about 20 years.
Okay. The next question is for Mr. Adame. Mr. Adame, you were talking about making decisions, and they're very curious to know what was the toughest decision and how did it affect your future?
Well, it's not only one time that you're going to have tough decisions. It's going to be several times. I think the toughest decision I had was when I was in high school. And this influenced my entire life, and I'll explain later. When I was in high school, well, first let me go back a little bit. My mother was in music. She was a choir student at Edinburgh High School many years ago, and my father was a varsity baseball player for PSJA. So I would like to say I inherited a little bit of both from my parents. I was a baseball player ever since I grew up till the end of high school, and I was a musician. So I went to my high school band director and I told him, as a freshman, I made the varsity baseball team as a freshman. And he told me at that point, well, you need to decide whether you want to be in band or you want to be in baseball. I had to make a decision at that point. And I thought it was unfair. I was, 14, 15 years old, and I had to make a huge decision that was going to affect the rest of my life. Obviously, I chose to stay in band, and that's, I'm where I am because of that decision. However, I told myself at that point that if I ever got in a position to where I had to make that type of decision for a young lady or a young man, that I would never put him in that position. And lo and behold, it happened when we were here in La Jolla High School. Several football players were in band and football, and I was just talking to Alex here about one of those football players that came and visited me yesterday, Sergio Castillo. How many of you know Sergio Castillo? So he was in band, and he's a professional football player in the Canadian Football League, and he's a place kicker and doing very, very well. And I remember the day where he came to me and told me, sir, I made the varsity football team. Can I do both? And my answer was absolutely. And so that was a tough decision for me, but I promised myself never to put a high school kid in that position. And I'm glad that I went through that because it prepared me for that situation for any young man and woman that was going to cross that road in their young life. So I'm happy that I made that decision because I don't regret the decision, but I'm also happy that I experienced that to allow other kids to be able to experience doing multiple things in high school, because it's tough to make decisions when you're that young. Unfortunately, that's the position I was put in. I don't regret it. So you will have many times where you're going to have to make tough decisions, maybe not exactly like mine, but you're going to get to a Y in the road, and you have to decide whether to go right or left. And all I can tell you is whatever decision you make, you commit to it and you finish it out. And if you do that, the end result will be very good in your favor.
Belinda, can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, Mr. Adame, I applaud you for taking that stance when you became a band director, that you wouldn't put someone in that position. Do we have any athletes in here? A few athletes? Are you one-sport athletes or multi-sport athletes?
Multi.
Are you athletes also involved in other stuff? Okay. How about drill team? Do you have any drill teamers in here? We've got a few. Cheerleaders, things like that. What about UIL, academic UIL, like calculators? What about theater? Things like that. A few theater. Music, band. How about choir? Okay. The reason I'm asking all of these questions, and there's a ton of other activities you can be involved in, is I think that there's an epidemic in high schools where there's an over-specialization, where either it comes from yourselves, whether it comes from some other outside influence like a coach or a parent or things like that, of trying to say you need to focus on one thing and be great at one thing. And while I agree that you need to put in those 10,000 hours into one thing to be great at it, whatever it is that you want to do with your life, being multifaceted and being able to do things like be an athlete and be in band, to understand both of those fields, both of those environments, is so, so, so important. And I can't stress the amount of being extremely involved and putting yourselves into a lot of different things. When I was in high school, I needed to take an elective, a couple of years of an elective. I obviously did journalism, but there were other things that I needed to do to graduate because of your, curriculum. And I took criminal justice. And one of the things that I've always said, that if I wasn't in sports broadcasting, is I would be in criminal justice, because I didn't know I was interested in that. And now one of my side projects that I'm working on because of my interest in criminal justice is I'm merging my media career and my love for criminal justice and true crime, and I'm doing a true crime podcast that I've been working on for the last 5 or 6 months. So you'll never know when those things that you are involved in intersect, and I encourage you to stay multifaceted and to do multiple things, because it's going to help you down the road. You just may not see it right now. So, thank you.
Okay.
And if I can add to that, I want to encourage you to do exactly what he's telling you to do. Don't let an adult influence you to do what you want to do. And what I mean by that is, don't let an adult tell you, don't do this because you're not going to be a professional athlete, or you're not going to be a professional musician. And I'm talking about athletics and music. If you're in athletics and music, and it's true, most of us are not going to be professional musicians or professional athletes, but the lessons that you learn being involved in that is going to mold you into what you're going to be later on. I have many kids that came through my band program that are doctors, lawyers, architects, policemen. I mean, they're in all these sorts of fields, and every single one of them it always tells me, it's because of my involvement in your program that shaped me to be the person that I am today. And those lessons that you learn while being involved in athletics or in fine arts are priceless. They're priceless. They'll shape you into the character that you want to be, the person you want to be, and they will help you accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So yes, stay involved. Don't give up. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not. But stay involved, and you will be grateful that you did, maybe 4, 5, 6 years later down the line. So stay involved. I encourage you to do that.
Thank you both. Okay, this next question is for John. And the question is, it's actually a two-part question. Which one of your jobs has been the hardest, and have you ever been in life-threatening situations?
So the hardest job is the one that you're in while you're waiting to become something that you want to be, because you're complacent, you're always looking to move up. So Right now, I'm in the position where I want to be, so this is the easiest job I've had because no day's hard for me. I mean, there's challenges, but it's at the end of the day, it's what I love to do. So the hardest job is waiting to get to where you want to do, and while you're in those positions, while you're waiting, while you're an intern, while you're in a position of support and you're not in the lead role, learn as much as you can from everybody around you. Learn what not to do. Learn what some people do that they have bad habits. Learn from that. Everybody can teach you something. I've learned to learn something from everybody, whether positive or good, negative. So I have been in life-threatening situations a few times, but luckily, you always try to rely on the training that you were given and stuff like that. So one time we went to go arrest an individual, because I do undercover operations online, so I pose as a minor on the internet, and someone came to meet me for bad things, and when they got there, they didn't want to be arrested. So when someone goes and shows up to those situations, they're either, sometimes they have a plan of what's going to happen when they're law enforcement, if it's law enforcement or if it's a minor. And one person that we encountered tried to run. So he smashed into my car. We had to pull him out of his car. He fought, got back in his car, and then we managed to get him without any incident. And then we've had some other unfortunate events that happened that I wouldn't go on and talk about because they're ongoing investigations. But yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous job. Law enforcement is one of the most dangerous jobs you can be in because you put yourself in situations where people, may not want to go to jail for. So they're willing to do anything.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for the 3 students. How do you balance your job, school, and extracurricular?
First? Okay. I don't even need a microphone. Okay, so like a lot of you are involved. Who's involved in more than 2 or 3 things? Sports, academics, and extra stuff, right? So throughout my whole high school, I was in student council, I was in varsity choir, I was in mixed choir, treble choir, stroke choir, jazz choir. I was part of soccer, volleyball, track, cross country. I did UIL, I did extra stuff for the school, and it helped me with my time management, and I still managed to graduate top 10 of my class. So it's very doable. It's just that you have to put the effort into it. And it's like, don't expect for someone, that's what got me ready for college, because my schedule was full all week, even Saturdays and Sundays. So if you start managing since high school and you start doing good in high school, college is going to feel like it's a breeze, because you get to choose your classes, you get to choose if you want to go. Obviously, you're paying for it. You decide if you're going to lose out on your $500 for that class. But you decide if you go. If you can't make it, you can't make it. Your professors, obviously, some of them count your attendance for part of their grade. But time management is like one of the really good things. So I work 2 jobs. I'm doing research and I work an internship. I'm taking 17 hours right now. I'm an officer for ASE, and the classes I'm taking are like at a higher level, so it's a little harder, but it's very doable. So don't think that I'm not the smartest person, but I'm not dumb. It's just that I know how to manage my time, and I'm good with it, and I'm good with people, as in I can talk to my professors. I'm good with communicating. So if I need help with anything or I can't make it to class, like right now I'm missing class, I talked to my professor. I told him I'm coming here to talk about the department, trying to get more students involved. And girls, just so you know, we have the highest amount of girls in civil engineering at UTRGV. We're about we're about 600 students right now, and over 33% are girls. So girls, don't think that, oh, it's a guy field, it's like guys are going to take over. No, believe me, there's more guys than girls in my classes, but usually the girls are the ones that are more neat. Not offending anyone, but honestly, if you like something, don't get out of it just because, oh, I don't want to be involved with this anymore, or I don't have time for this. You always have time, just be good with time management. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mario?
Okay, yeah, like she says, right? I mean, if you guys are already involved in more than 2 or 3 things, right? like she mentioned sports and, all those things that you guys do, right? I mean, you're already learning to manage your time. You guys are already spending time on things that you guys are interested on, right? And you guys know that sometimes that means not going to this party on the weekend because you gotta be at a tennis tournament, and you just make the decisions, right? Either you wanna be watching TV or on YouTube or being active in important things that will help you in your future. So, yeah, I guess some of you might want to look at it as sacrificing things, which you basically are doing. You're sacrificing not spending time with family members or going to the trip on the weekend and just, concentrate on those things that you're doing, right? Or that you want to do and accomplish, like going to the university, working, right? I mean, you gotta run to work, after you're done with your classes, the hour that you have for break, study for your exam or review for your class, and you just gotta use every minute wisely, and rest, because you have to rest too, right? Sometimes you will probably spend, 2 or 3 in the morning doing work, and I'm assuming some of you already do it, right? But it's tough. I mean, I don't want to say it's easy because it's not once you're doing more than 2 things at a time, but it's doable, like she was saying. I mean, you can do it if you want it, you do it. You just gotta put the time that you need to it, and you gotta make sacrifices, right? And I think that's the way to manage that.
Thank you. And Brisa.
Would you like to repeat the question?
I don't remember what question. No, I'm just kidding. How do you balance your school life and any extracurricular activities you're part of?
Okay, so I'm a very involved student at the university. I am an officer in an organization, and I'm a member in 3 other organizations. I have a full-time job, a part-time job, and I have a minor and a major and a minor. And what I do, I prioritize. My education comes before everything else. If I don't do good in class, then how am I going to work? How am I going to these other organizations when I have to take care of my classes? So I prioritize. Time management, like Maria said, is key. In college, it's key. Like, you have to know how to balance everything. You can't get into stuff that you can't handle. And yeah, I prioritize my education because that's what's gonna get me everywhere. Like, that's what opens doors for me. So if I can't manage my school, I know that I'll have to leave a job because I prioritize my education more than anything. So that's how I handle everything. I prioritize, and I do a lot of time management.
Okay, thank you. The next question will be for the 4 professionals. A lot of our students are first-generation college students, meaning that their parents did not go to college or university after high school. What advice would you give them? I'll start with you, Mr. Adame.
Well, believe it or not, I was a first-generation college student in my family. My father was a bread salesman. That was his career. And my mom worked as an executive secretary for a school district, and neither one of them went to college. I'm sure that your parents tell you that they sacrifice a lot for you. Well, just out of curiosity, how many of you are first generation are planning to be first generation college students? Quite a few of you. So listen to what first of all, listen to what your parents are telling you, because I'm sure they've told you the same thing that my parents told me. I don't want you to have the life that I have. Does that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. Okay, and they truly don't. So the one thing that you have to do if you want to have a better life compared to your parents is you have to get an education. Period. There's no other way around it. Whether it's a 4-year education or a vocational education, get an education. Get certified in something. and then doors will open for you. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. It was very hard for me. And like I said, you're going to be faced with decisions every single day. My home life when I was young is probably very similar to a lot of you here. I lived in a wood-framed home, 1 bathroom for 8 people, no AC. It was tough. Now, would I trade those days for anything? Absolutely not, because I learned a lot. But the sacrifice that my parents made, I wanted to make my parents proud. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make my parents proud, and I knew that it was going to take a lot of hard work. I worked with my dad many times delivering bread, and I saw the hard work that he had to do. And it was not easy. It was a tough life, having to get up at 3 in the morning, show up at the warehouse at 4 o'clock, load the truck with bread and start delivering, and then get back around 5 o'clock and unload and do all his math stuff, and then get home, sleep, and then do it again. That is tough. So I encourage you to get an education. Don't give up. It's going to be challenging, and I agree with what everyone is saying here about time management. That is very crucial. And all of us here probably still have to manage our time. It never ends. So take advantage of the opportunities you have right now to prepare you for your next chapter in life, and commit to getting an education. Don't give up, because if you do, you're going to be faced with even tougher challenges. And it's very doable. It's very doable. You have 3 students here that are telling you that it's very doable. And I agree with what these young students are saying, that college compared to high school is very different. Mm-hmm. It's super different. You're actually doing stuff you want to do in college. Here you're having to do things that you're required to do. In college, you choose the things you want to do, but you have to commit to it. And it's very, very different. I tell that to all my former kids when they were getting ready to graduate. College life is very different than high school life. I enjoyed college life much more than high school life. I would assume that the 3 individuals here will probably agree with me. So just don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up, and commit.
Okay, I think Brisa wanted to jump in real quick.
Yes. Even though I went to Jimmy Carter and I was already exposed to the college life, it's completely different. In my first semester of college, I was working 3 jobs. I am a first-generation student as well, a college student, and it was hard. I thought I could manage that. I mean, I did, but it was a lot. And high school, nothing compared to college. I love college, though. Like, it's amazing, but yeah, like, it's not the same thing. But I still encourage it, that college.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Alex, I'm going to go to you.
Do you want to answer? I'm trying to formulate
go ahead, Mr. Reynosa.
So I'm a first-generation college student from my whole family. We got a pretty big family, too. So being the first person in your generation to go to a university, there's not a lot of experience and a lot of guidance that your parents or family members can provide you. So my suggestion to someone who wants to go to college but doesn't know how, ask. That's the number one thing. Don't be afraid to ask the guidance counselors. Don't be afraid to ask the college. Make a phone call. Be on hold for 45 minutes until you finally get somebody to talk to. Like, hey, what do I need to do this? What are the requirements? What forms do I need to fill out? Those are the hardest things for me to get through in college, and to figure out what I wanted to do. And I just set up appointments with guidance counselors and just bounced ideas off them. Like, hey, what if I want to do this? Hey, what do I want to do this? What do I need to do to complete this? And they always have the answers, and if not, then you make an appointment with someone else. So that's my advice for first generation.
Can I chime in on
sure.
that?
Go ahead.
Also, the importance of being first generation is that you set example for all your brothers and sisters after that. If you can do it, they're gonna see that they can do it as well. All my brothers and sisters after me graduated. My sons graduated. I have one more boy left, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that he graduates from a college. Everyone has a college education after I graduated. You set the example. But what you do is you create a sense of hope for your family, that it's doable. It's doable. So those of you who are in that situation where you're going to be the first one to graduate from your family, you're going to set the tone for the rest of your family after you. And you could be that one person that makes that difference for your brothers and sisters and your children and their children. It's that important. That's the impact that you'll have. So stick to it. Stick to it.
Mr. Castillo?
Can you repeat the question?
A lot of our students are first-generation students. What advice would you give to them, or something that you went through that you could share?
This is a tough one. Are any of y'all currently working like a part-time job, like at a Subway, Whataburger, El Pato? Some of you guys. And do you have to work that job? Do you provide income to the family? It's just for what you want, right? Any of you guys work a job just to provide income for the family? Now, this is where I come back again. Any of you all were part of a migrant family at one time? Any of you all migrants?
Migrant families?
We got only 1, 2. You guys still go anywhere? What cities you go to? Stand up. I saw someone raise their hand over here. Don't be shy. You go to Nebraska. What do you do in Nebraska? Do you work at a factory or you work in the fields? What do you pick? Corn. Really? Who else? Anybody else?
Is there anyone else that maybe goes up north, up there? Where do you all go? North Dakota.
North Dakota, okay. What do you pick over there in North Dakota? Really, the cotton. Now, do you just go with your parents? Do you participate, or do you actually go picking also? Okay. Now, a lot of you, a lot of you kids aren't exposed to conditions like this. Now you see on Facebook people or the social saying that it's like cruel punishment, but honestly that builds character, and that's something that our culture has that nobody else has. But unfortunately, it's a dying breed of people that we no longer have. It's like no longer necessary for some reason. And as a kid, you guys would understand, those that do it. I was a scrawny little 5-pound, 5-foot little boy trying to pick up a 100-pound costal de cebolla. You try to picture that. You guys have seen the onion fields, right? Those brown bags, those are all full of onions. Weigh about 150 pounds each. Try lifting those up after you've been on your knees for a quarter mile, cutting them and putting them in buckets. It's ugly. It's hard work, but they did. My dad did it for 40 years. And he really didn't encourage me to go to school. It was my brother that encouraged me to go to school. And being part of a migrant family, you would stop at all these places going up north, and there were programs for the kids. And they would encourage, one of the biggest things that they would encourage is reading. Reading a lot. That's what we did growing up, reading a lot. Being in part of that, working in the fields, you have an impression that, this can't be life. But my dad was making a killing. He had a corporation. He had 5 kids. Every costal they made, for every one he made 5 more. We never saw the money. It all went to him. But it's just he came from a different upbringing. He was from San Luis Potosí. And he worked hard. He came here and he built his thing and he built us. And then it was not until my brother got called full-blown scholarships to UCLA and Stanford. He didn't go there. He went to San Marcos, one of the biggest party schools in Texas. It's all right, but he graduated. And he was my role model to go and to finish school. Now he's a principal at one of the big schools in Baytown. It's amazing how the influence, you know, you have your parents influence you to do many things, but I know I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life or even do anything of such manual hard labor. If you guys don't want to do that, if you don't want to get paid $7.50 an hour for flipping a burger or hanging up clothes at Ross or doing anything or serving other people, the way you go is to go to college. For every dollar that you make at a regular job, you make almost 10 times much being a college graduate. You guys do the math. It's very simple. ¿Para qué quieren batallar? Just work a little harder at the beginning, and then you grow exponentially after you graduate. And I encourage you all to at least try to get a master's degree. At my class, I was the only Hispanic out of 40 students. Everybody was Asian, Indian, or some other foreign. I'm sorry, can we say Asian? No?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
You already said it.
Orient? No, okay.
We're fine.
Well, you know, it's because now, you know, you have to be careful
Yes,
on
I know.
that stuff. But I was the only Hispanic that graduated with a master's degree out of 40 kids. And all the other people weren't from this country. That's ridiculous. And considering we're in South Texas, those are the stats that we don't tell you about. Those are the things that we don't tell you about. And most of them were men. And that's why we encourage, and that's why we're happy to have these young ladies here to show you that, you know, even though it's a man-driven field, it still is. Don't get me wrong, it still is. And that there are some women that are brave enough to take on those challenges and that stigma. And we encourage you, young ladies, and men, of course, to not be intimidated just because the term engineer or because you think it's a math-driven field. It is at the beginning, but there's a lot of stuff that they don't teach you in college that you will learn once you graduate. Well, as in any field, right? Mm-hmm. So my advice to you is be the person or the individual you want to be. Don't let other people bully you or tell you you can't do that. Because here in our culture, we're very ready to say that you're not smart enough or you can't do it or you can't afford it. That's not true. We were very poor. We had to save up to be poor. But now I could pretty much get whatever I want without having to stress over it. And you guys can too. Just take that advice, take the advice from these gentlemen here and from these students, and don't be afraid to make yourself a better person. Thank you.
Okay. Before you answer, Alex, I'm gonna just, students, if you can keep just thinking about it so we can wrap up after this question. What was one misconception you had about college going in that you've either debunked it or it wasn't true at all? So just think of one instance where you can maybe share, maybe you were intimidated by something and you found out that it wasn't true. So just see if you can come up with an answer for that, and then I'll go back to Alex to answer for the first generation.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I want to jump on something that Mr. Adame said and share something personal that I really don't share all that often. So first of all, let me give you a recent piece of information, then I'll go back to college. So at age of 36, I was diagnosed with ADHD and didn't realize that I had it, even though I had all the symptoms for it in junior high and in high school, because I was one of those people that just kind of procrastinated and put things off and couldn't focus, and unless it was something that I was very interested in. When I got to college, I graduated within the top 10% of my class. Everyone will argue in my family that it should have been higher. When you have a sister that graduated from Harvard, you tend to get a little bit of pressure from that. So I went to Boston University my freshman year, and I thought I was going to take over the world, and I thought it didn't, I can manage my time. I know how to do things. So I scheduled an 8 a.m. archaeology class, and I scheduled a calculus class, even though I didn't need to take calculus. Why? Because I was good at math. I got a over 700 score on my math SAT. I'm going to be good at math. I was a comm major. The reason they call it comm is College of Optional Math. And I decided I was gonna challenge myself in those things. Rather than put myself in a position to succeed, I put myself into these overtly challenging situations before I was ready to take them on, if that makes any sense. And I got an F in my archaeology class because it was at 8 a.m. and a walk, and it was in the dark, and it was all slides, and the professor talked like this about the Mayan civilization, and this is the piece of information that we found. Here's what we found on our... So as you can imagine, just like some of you in the back, I fell asleep quite a bit in some of those classes. I also, in my comm class, didn't realize how unprepared I was as a writer. I was always a good writer. I did journalism in high school, but I wasn't prepared for college level writing. And I struggled my freshman year. I struggled to make friends. There was very few Hispanic people there. I had one friend that I knew, but he was a senior, so he had his own schedule. I had a very, very different schedule. And it was a challenging time for me. And after my freshman year, I came back home and I regrouped. I went to Pan Am, I took some classes, and I got myself ready in a position to go back. And I went back. I took a leave of absence from Boston University and went back and completed another 2 years, and then finally it became too cost prohibitive for me to stay. But I was able to still experience that college life. Don't anyone tell you that you need to have this 4-year plan and you need to be done by this date, and you can set those parameters for yourself. That's fine. Set goals. But understand that there are going to be things outside of your control that are going to deviate from those plans. And you need to be prepared for those things and not quit. There are things that are going to be challenging. You're going to have a professor in some of your classes that may not get you or may not like you. It just happens. It's just the way of life. You might have a professor that's a little more lenient on things. You may have a professor that's going to be really helpful as well, and someone that you're going to want to build a positive relationship with that's going to help you down the road. What I'm trying to say by that is there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be things that you are not going to expect during your college life. There's going to be there might be a family issue comes up, and you have to take a year off of college. Or you may have to work because you find yourself in a financial situation that you need the money at the time. Don't let any of those things derail you from the goal that you're trying to accomplish. After I left Boston U, I came back home and I had a job in professional baseball. And I did not go back to school right away to finish my degree. It wasn't until 2006, 2007, a couple years after, I went back and I finished. Not only did I finish, I was helping TA some of the classes I was in because I had some professional experience, and I finished. So, I like to think of it as I came out early for the draft by playing, my sport early, or in this case, working in my field early. But not everyone has that option. If you want to be an architect, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, you got to continue on those paths and never quit. But there are going to be challenges that come along the way. They're going to try to stop you. Don't let it stop you. Because whether it's a mental health issue like I have with ADHD that I didn't know I had until the age of 36, or whether it's a family issue because you have to take care of a loved one during a trying time, whether it's you have to provide for the family because someone lost their job, those things are going to happen to you. And if they don't, phenomenal. If they do, don't let it stop you, because those are things that at first when I went, I wasn't prepared for the S happens, stuff happens situation. And being able to confront those things and confront the fact that there are people just as smart, if not smarter than you. There are people just as talented as you. But that doesn't mean they have to have the better drive than you. And as long as you continue to have that drive, think good things are going to happen. And that's going to happen in your careers too. You know, I mentioned I was only at WWE for 7 months. Someone else came into a position that was in charge of the announcers and said, we want a whole new crop of announcers and we want them to come from the YouTube and content creation field, and we don't want them to come from wrestling or sports. So they purged 3 or 4 announcers. Nothing to do with what I was doing wrong, but they decided to get rid of all of us, 3 or 4 of us at a time. Out of my control. Dream job, done. And I had to be able to pick myself up and move on to the next thing and push forward. That's gonna happen to you in college, that's gonna happen to you in life. So the best advice I can give to you in terms of first generation, because you have no experience from this, because no one in your family has that experience, keep pushing forward. Because there's gonna be roadblocks, and if you don't keep pushing forward, you're gonna find yourself 5 years later saying, man, why didn't I push forward? Guarantee it. So just keep pushing forward.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And I'm going to have the students answer this last question before we wrap everything up. Students, is there something that you were either intimidated by or were afraid of going to college, maybe something they told you? I'm going to start with Brisa.
Okay, so I was part of this district. I came elementary, middle school, high school here. So thankfully, I had amazing teachers all through high school and middle school and everything that gave me a lot of knowledge. Like, obviously the knowledge that I have right now is because of them and the support of my mom. And her being involved in this district, it opened a lot of doors for me. She sacrificed a lot for me, and my dad as well. So I had it easy. I learned a lot. I was proud to be in this district. I went into college, people telling me that engineering was hard, that math is hard, and I had already graduated with an associate's in math, and I was still scared. And I went to the roundup, which is where you decide your major for, the 4 years. And I changed my major 3 times. I went from math to mechanical engineering to civil, and I winged it. I didn't know anything about civil. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but then I was like, it's a change, let me try it out, right? And I was scared. I was scared of what I was getting myself into, but thankfully, the department, the professors, they welcomed me. They introduced me to the opportunities of civil engineering, and they gave me examples, and they showed me a little bit about it, and I loved it ever since. And I'm like, I don't regret changing my degree, all those times in Roundup. Engineering is not hard at all, well, to me, and it's manageable. Engineering, it's fun. It's an amazing field. I love it. I love learning things, and every time that you go to class, you learn something new, and it's not boring. And there's a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of labs, materials, measurements, and you learn a lot, and it's amazing. And I encourage people, not even for engineering, for any major, just for you guys to try college as a whole. It's amazing. You meet a lot of new people. You get involved in organizations, and it opens a lot of doors for you, especially when you want to get a job. Don't be scared for anything. I was scared when I went in, even though I had college experience. As soon as I went into UTRGV, I was like, oh my God. I was like, where's the experience now? It was amazing though, especially when you have the support of people. Even though if it's not your parents, if it's a friend, because I have to be the support for some of my friends, because sometimes they want to give up and they just want to quit college. Don't let anyone, if you know a friend that doesn't want to do it, push them. Because at the end of the day, I push education a lot, especially because my parents, they didn't go far in education. They pushed me a lot in my education, and thanks to them, I push it a lot as well, because it's what opens everything for you. And I was scared when I walked into UTRGV when I was my first class at 8 in the morning, thinking, oh, it's gonna be the same thing as high school, and not at all. Having the support of your teachers, your professors. Thankfully, the civil department at UTRGV, all the professors are very involved with you, right? Maria? Anybody? And they're very involved with you with any help, like anything that you need. And especially in classes, if you don't understand something in the class, like they're literally everyone quiet, not knowing anything, it's the best time to ask for questions. Even in high school, in college, you have to ask questions, especially if you're lost. Like it helps you. And office hours, I didn't think it was important. It's very important. And if if you don't understand your professors, there's a lot of professors that teach that course as well. You can ask any other professors. So yeah, I thought it was scary. It's not scary at all. Math is not hard at all. If you have the good professors to teach you, if you choose the good professors instead of the easy professors, it might be challenging, but you'll learn a lot. And it's a good feeling knowing, and not being lost and not knowing something. It's a good feeling, so yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. Mario?
Okay. Yes. For me, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, right, I stopped university of just like the first or second semester when I started back in 2000. I went back after my accident, but I decided to start on a community college because I was afraid of the classes, they're gonna be too hard because it's a university. But once I started, right, I noticed that it wasn't, like she was saying, it's not difficult. You just gotta be dedicated. You might not be the smartest person in the class, right? But if you're dedicated to your homeworks, to your assignments, right, studying, I mean, that helps a lot. So for me, that was one of the things that was keeping me, or I was afraid, right? The courses are gonna be too hard, the math, right? But once you start, right, you notice that, I mean, it's doable. I mean, everything starts from the beginning, from the easy, and then it goes hard. But before it gets hard, you learn at the beginning. But if you don't learn at the beginning, then of course it's gonna be hard, right? But it depends on you, how much you put into it, right? And yeah, the math, I mean, yeah, it's not easy, but it's not difficult. I mean, if you learn and know your algebra, it's very important to get through your math courses, your calculus courses. Algebra is like the basics of all that. But even though if you are having issues with that, I mean, there's tutoring. I mean, there's the learning center where you can go ask for help, right? And I took advantage of that a lot. I would spend a lot of times there when I was going through my calculus 1, 2, 3 differential equations, right? I was always, there on asking for help. And that's the way I did it on my classes, right? I got B's, A's, and I'm a father of 4, and I draw, or I work too, right? So, and I know a lot of you guys do a lot of stuff, like you guys raised your hand earlier. But everything is, you just gotta be very dedicated to what you do. Like I say again, you might not be the smartest one, but if you're dedicated, I mean, you can do it. And I'm also a first generation university student and high school student, I would say too, right? And even though, like he was saying earlier, I mean, you don't have to do it in 4 years. I mean, things come on the way where you might have to stop, and that has happened to me a lot, right? And I've been on the degree probably, since 2012. But I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, I get sick, I have to quit, and things happen, but I'm always back, right? And I'm almost done, thank God. I'm planning on a master's degree, so hopefully, first I just want to finish this and hopefully move on to the master's. But civil engineering, it's a great career, right? If you like how the world moves, or not moves, but how everything works, right? Because as a civil engineer, you do structural, you do roads, transportation, geotechnical engineering, the dams, you do the canals. We build everything. Right now I'm taking the hydrology class, and also construction planning and management. And those topics are very important, and I have taken most of the courses as well. But in hydrology, I mean, you learn how to manage that big issue that we have in the valley when it comes to flooding. Right, unfortunately, I don't know if I should talk about this, right, but things were not planned right since the beginning, for our area, for our water to drain. And as a civil engineer and being from the valley, knowing the issues that are here, I mean, you think about those things and how to, at least I do, right, how I could help on the future, with this issue that is already being looked at, and hopefully it can get resolved with a lot of million dollars, right? But it can happen. But if you like that, helping, let's say in this case like the valley, or help the infrastructure get better. I mean, civil engineering is a good way to go into, and it pays also, right? But it depends on the dedication that you put to it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pruneda, I'll let you answer. For the rest of the panelists, just if we could just summarize everything that we've talked about today, and then just one last couple sentences just to depart. I know we're hitting crunch time already. So I'm going to let Ms. Pruneda answer, and then I'll go ahead and turn it to y'all.
Okay, so I'm not the first one to graduate in my family. My sister actually graduated. She's going to get her stamp for passing her PE in a year and a half, I believe. She's a civil engineer, so she guided me through everything. So I was really I wasn't really scared because she guided me through from when I started high school till now. She's still helping me out. So not all of you have that, I guess, like support or help from a sibling that's not doing the same major. Luckily, I decided to do the same thing. But what she's told me was also very different with my experience. So she was very into studying, like every day, a good 3-4 hours. I don't study. I can't study. Like if it's like my life depended on it, I cannot study. So I'm the type of person that, we have an exam, I'll study over the weekend, but it's like a half an hour study and then like 2-hour break, which is a little bad, but I mean, if you know what to study and and you know your stuff since class, you don't really need to be like grinding in the books. So it's all up to you guys. If you guys are not paying attention in class, it's not gonna help you, because the majority of the stuff that you learn in class is what you're gonna need to know for your exams. So one thing that I was told that got me very scared was that you don't get guided through college. So if you make a little mistake that, it's it. You mess up your schedule, it's gonna be it. It's not true. As an incoming freshman, they offer you like advisement, where it's like a counselor, how they do it here, where they tell you, take this class, you might have to drop this class. So what they do, they help you organize your schedule. Individually, you have to meet with them. They help you organize your schedule. They tell you about how much money you have, as in next year you're gonna get, let's say next semester you're gonna get $300 less than what you got this semester. So they kind of guide you through it, and you're not by yourself. And then for classes, professors are always making themselves available for one-on-ones, I really don't understand this, or there's SIs, which is student, what is it? Student what?
I zoned out.
SIs, it's like the students, they have their TAs, because professors don't grade your papers. Students do.
TAs.
No, but SIs.
Oh.
But the SI is when the TAs help you study. As in, they go over problems, they go over stuff you might see in your exam. So it's not you're going to be completely by yourself. You study on your own. You do it on your own. You don't know what classes to get. No, they guide you through it. And they have the mentor program where it's for engineering, I know they do. So it's no matter what engineering field you go into, the officers from the organizations, they're usually your mentors. And if you're incoming freshman, they get you a mentor, and they help you plan out your whole, I don't know if you want to do 4 years. I'm planning on doing it in 3 years. Hopefully it goes well. But you can do it in 4 years, you can do it in 6 years. It's not how fast you get it done, it's getting it done.
And you should be proud of yourself for, even though taking so long, you're still there and you're still hanging in there, and the resources are there for you. You just have to look for them. They're there for you, just to grab them by the hand, and they'll be there for you. You just have to be persistent for what you want.
And failing a class is not something out of the ordinary. There's professors, they're doctors that took a class 3 times because they failed it the other 2 times.
And
it's
that's persistent.
and it's all about you guys not giving up. It's
Right.
not, I failed my class, I'm done with college. I started college with a 3.9, right now I have a 3.8, and I'm freaking out. I feel like I'm doing really bad. But there's people that have way lower GPAs that have great jobs. So don't really focus on obviously you have to do good in your classes, but also be really involved. It really helps you. Your contacts and your networking is what really gets you through.
And study.
Okay, thank you, girls. Okay, I'm going to start with Mr. Castillo, just a wrap up of today and any last minute advice you want to give our students. Yeah, go ahead.
Who wants to be an engineer? Several of you, okay. You think it's really difficult? We make it sound difficult, right? But it is not very difficult. I mean, it's just something that you learn as you go, as with anything. When I tell my students, a monkey can do what we do. An idiot can do what we do. But however, if you do something over and over and over and over, eventually, hopefully, you're going to get better at it. Don't you think? Y'all agree? So that's in a nutshell, that's what it is. In our field, you have to go through what everybody else goes through. You have to go to college. And like with math, you do it, start from the beginning, you do it more, you get better at it eventually. And in engineering, also, you get trained and you do it over and over and over, and then you get better at it. So if you feel that it's going to be too difficult for you, if it's not for you, don't get discouraged in trying out if you really want to if you want to become an engineer. It's not hard. It just requires a little bit of work and effort on your behalf, as in anything you do. So I wish you all good luck, and hopefully I'll be seeing you guys in one of my classes soon.
Thank you. Go ahead, John.
So just to summarize what a lot of us have emphasized in different words is priorities and sacrifices. So if you know you don't want to work at Chili's or work at Applebee's the rest of your life or at McDonald's or something like that, you're going to have to get an education. Everybody's getting an education. Everybody's got a 4-year degree. If I'm looking at 2 resumes in front of me and one of them has a bachelor's or a master's, I'm going to lean towards that individual. So in order to do that, you're going to have priorities in your life, and you're going to have to make some sacrifices. Your friends aren't going to live at your house with you the rest of your life. Your friends aren't going to start your family. Your friends aren't going to pay your car. Your friends aren't going to pay your mortgage. They're not going to buy you the new Xbox or the new TV that you want. You're going to have to do it yourself. And so with that aspect, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to tell your friends you can't hang out that night. If they really want to go to a party or to a movie and you have a test the next day, you're going to have to prioritize yourself and your education. Because at the end of the day, it's you are the ones that are going to have to live with your decisions. So for me, I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed my cousin's weddings because of school. And those are the sacrifices you're going to have to make at some point, and those choices you're going to have to make if you want to reach your goals and where you want to be in life. If you want a nice house, a nice car, a nice career, a nice whatever, you're going to have to make those sacrifices.
Right. Thank you. Guys, I know y'all are getting antsy. I can hear you all moving around. We just have 2 more speakers, so just bear with us. And then if you want to stay afterwards, I'm sure a couple of them will gladly take your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Alex.
I just 2 things quickly. I'm sure all of you guys have a dream in mind of either where you want to go to school or what you guys want to do. I've always said, and I do a lot of these talks, I work with the National Hispanic Institute doing summer leadership programs, and one of the things I tell a lot of our students is dreams are just goals that don't have a plan yet. And anything that you want to do, I know it sounds like hyperbole, I know it sounds like some out there type of thing to say, oh, I can accomplish my dreams. Or if someone says, you can be anything you want to, and you guys might think that's a bunch of BS, but I'm living proof that if you work hard enough, if you're nice enough to people, if you are a kind person, if you are someone that will put in the work, you can make your dreams happen, whatever it is that you want it to be. If you want to be in the media, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a politician, if you want to be a principal, whatever it is, there's going to be a lot of people that you're going to approach in your life. And some of them you're going to even call friends. And they're going to say, bah, you're not going to do that. Everyone's heard the bah. I'm sure once. I'm sure you're going to hear it 15 times today. Or you're going to hear that a ton in your life when you tell people, I want to accomplish something big. I want to have a big house. I want to have 5 cars. Whatever it is that's your goal, whatever it is that you want to achieve, it's 1,000% possible. And don't let anyone ever stop you from those things. Like I told you before, there's going to be roadblocks along the way. The plan may not be the way you map it out. You're going to have to take some detours along the way. But those things are possible. I've seen it happen. I've done it. And all these people up here have done it. And it's just one of those things that perseverance is just the ultimate thing.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. And last but not least, Mr. Adame.
I think the one thing I would like for all of you to go away with today is try to be the best version of yourself every single day. Every single day. Life is a path of choices, basically. And from now on, you're going to have choices in your path every day. And the choice that you make has a consequence, and it's either negative or positive. In high school, you can get away with some things out of bad choices, and you'll get second chances and sometimes third chances. After high school, choices with consequences become pretty serious. And that will have an impact for the rest of your life. So the best way to get from point A to point B is to be the best version of yourself every day. At the end of the day, all you have is your character and the perception that you present to people around you. So be the best version of yourself every single day, and you won't regret it. I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's a wrap up for our panelist speakers. Didn't they do awesome? Let's give them a round of applause. Guys, on behalf of La Jolla ISD, our superintendent and our administration, we thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us today. And I think there may be students that want to stick around if you all have time.
I also want to say I'm very, very active on, I don't know how many of you have Twitter, but I will answer any question. If you guys have a question about the media or working in sports or anything like that, feel free to reply to me. My DMs are open. If you have a question that you want to ask about the media, about careers, about college, at Alex Del Barrio is my Twitter handle, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for your attention. Did you want to dismiss? Okay. Ms. T-Balt's going to come over here to dismiss you all, but thank you guys for being so respectful of our time and listening this morning. So y'all have a wonderful day. To our speakers, thank you so much, and y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.